Tēnā koe, tēnā kōrua, tēnā koutou. It's Katrina Simon here, student ID number 21508888. As per the slide in front of you, today's date is November the 1st, 2016. The time is 4:10 in the afternoon. I saw online, because I frequently have a look on eKainga for any updates, that there was a student evaluation forms that Karamia had put online for everyone to fill out. I had a look and I've filled them out, and I sent an email to ask some Pātai, because for me normally I like to follow up with anyone that you know, is doing evaluation mahi, just to elaborate orally on, you know, feedback and you know, for whatever the kaupapa. For this one, I really wanted to make an effort. I think it's important, and so I emailed Karamia back just to see what the process is, and basically in that telephone conversation came out the idea for me to put together an oral via PowerPoint mix. I've been working extensively with this medium with my 2 online submissions for my thesis, and so I feel comfortable with this medium and hope that it could be helpful for those, you know, looking at the evaluations. That's just a little bit of the background. In the next slide, I'm going to come into my particular approach, you know, for any type of evaluation form, and then talk through my feedback and how that works. Ka pai. See you at the next slide. Kia ora. Kia ora. The format for my student evaluation oral submission will commence with an introduction. You'll see in front of you 3 sections on reflection points. Then I'm going to give a conclusion. See you at the next slide. So, kōrero 1, the introduction. I filled out the 2 forms that are online, one being for the course content, the kaiako, teaching, supervision, the second form being about facilities and the practical support. My first bit of feedback about how I felt when I saw through eKainga the opportunity for us as students to give feedback via the evaluation forms, I wondered whether it would have been better to have a more helpful for the evaluation personnel to for us students to have it at the student noho, whether that could have been a better avenue. It just struck me when I saw it online, you know, whether that medium itself would pay dividends with the amount of feedback that you're going to generate or get. So it leads on to a second point, is just a little observation on my part. It appears to me, and I've been, keeping a track of e-kāinga, looking, it comes up who's online. I just wonder how many candidates actually access e-kāinga, and wonder that as another part of evaluation could be interesting to find out. It appears to me, and certainly in talking with other candidates, other students, they don't actually access e-kāinga. They're not online a lot. So maybe that's another thing to consider, is was that a good medium to use? Just a couple of opening points of feedback. Okay, in relation to how I want to talk with you about some more detail, I thought I would start in the next slide on evaluation form 1. There's 3 parts to it. I'd like to talk a little bit about supervision. The second thing is about the enrolment stages and the handbook. Third of all, doctoral administration. Ka pai? The second 2 slides, so that's reflection points 2 and 3, I hope it's okay to give feedback about where I want to put, some concerted kōrero into, is the second evaluation form on facilities and practicalities. I'm going to think through that, because how I do these sorts of kōrero is as I'm going, the logic sort of comes out. So I haven't at this stage got an idea how I'm going to structure it. I know it will come out as I'm flowing. Ka pai? So
I'm like that too.
Kia ora, kia ora.
Kia ora.
I'm just doing this. So I'm just talking to a lovely person, a student, ka pai, or staff member. And anyway, I'm in the second level of the library, so it's all impromptu, but it is in a confidential space, and I'm going to go back to room 61 where I'm allocated to carry on. It is kōrero on the ground, and so thank you for listening. See you at the next slide. Kia ora, it's Katrina Simon from room 67. Over at the Amorangi complex. It's 7 p.m. in the evening, and I've had an opportunity to quickly, because I had a gap time, so I had to get my thinking back into this kaupapa. And I just want to make a correction. I've been talking about e-kāinga. There's 2 platforms I'm referring to. I'm referring to e-wānanga, aroha mai, and e-kura kāinga. And for some reason, I'm calling them both e-kāinga, aroha mai. So that may have put those listening out of joint. What was she talking about? I'm meaning e-wānanga, aroha mai. But also i kura kāinga. I for some reason I call I wānanga I kāinga aroha mai. So let me get that one right. In terms of the doctoral program, which I've broken down into administration, supervision, and the doctoral enrolment, I think that I've had a really, I've had really good services, and navigated my way through. And I'm really happy with what's happened in terms of giving feedback. I have appreciated the way the DRC has collaboratively worked with me. Nothing is ideal, and it is a two-way relationship. And so thank you to everyone that has supported me through the journey. And I've already, in the thesis, written about the 3 stages of enrolment, how I've navigated it in collaboration with the wānanga, among other bits and pieces. As I stress, nothing is ideal. However, how did we work together is the key thing here. Nothing is perfect in a system, and certainly I'm not a perfect student. However, where did I see strengths and weaknesses, and where did the system accommodate me, etc., etc. Well, I think there's best practice here overall. I'm not going to get into the detail too much. I've had some reflection time, and because I've already given a lot of feedback about that. And the bottom line, though, is there has been success and achievement through the enrolment stages with supervision and with the doctoral administration process therein. Let me chuck out a few feedback points. There always can be improvement on that, but I'm a capitaliser of weaknesses, and where there are, students like myself will capitalise on them. If I see that the DRC is meeting every 2 to 3 months, there's a Christmas break, etc., etc., I'm going to push through those times and keep pumping away in order to advance. I saw opportunities, because I'm an opportunist type student. It could be seen by others as barriers. It's all in the eye of the beholder. The bottom line is, a student here that's referring to myself is giving feedback, and what I'm saying is that there's 2 sides to a coin. There's been times when I could have gone off tangent while feedback was coming through from the DRC about ethics and so on and so forth, but it's about, for me, getting back quickly, not letting things linger, and pushing my way through. You need to be onto it as a student to be able to work with the wānanga doctoral system, and I had to beaver around and keep testing the system to get out what was happening. In terms of this feedback, what is important for me as a student to convey is that ethically I will go forward from here, in keeping my mouth zipped about the inside workings of what happens behind, I call it behind closed doors, whatever. It's like every system that I've been on. There's a lot happening in the system. Nothing's ideal. There's a few bits and pieces, but there's room for movement forward, and that's the key crux of what I'm saying. I got to figure out how to work things to my advantage. The book goes so far, but it doesn't go into those nuanceties of how to make it work for yourself as a candidate. Am I going to share those secrets of the trade? No, I'm not. But I am going to provide feedback whereby I'm saying there's room for manoeuvre, there's areas of that could be improved, but those improvements for me were opportunities to capitalise. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag about anything, because that's not how I operate. My feedback is about the positives of the system, generally speaking. Everyone, I think, knows where the challenges are. Staff are overworked. There's never enough hours of the day. There's enrolment periods that you know you're restricted to almost, or whatever. There are hold-ups. There are supervision directives, if you like to call it, that you work with. The first two that were allocated for me just didn't work. But do I cry my eyes out? Do I give up? No. I kept pumping through. With the two supervisors, Professor Paul and Professor P.E. Kerr, I will work with them with everything I have in me. Nothing is ideal, but I've been happy with the service provision. I've made it work, and I hope that it's been a learning experience for everyone about, you know, my particular waka. And so thank you to everyone, thank you to the system, and if there's any detail in there that you want me to get back on, I'm happy to do it in confidence. In the evaluation form, I have put my feedback at the column 1, which is excellent services, and that's how I see it. There is a lot that can be done to improve, but at the end of the day, as I've said, I made it work for me, and I was never here to try and change the system, but to go with what's available and to make it work. So I hope that's helpful. I've had to do it fast track because of time constraints, but that is my kōrero in relation to evaluation form 1. Kia ora. Kia ora anō. I'm not going to agonise this kōrero on the second evaluation form. I must admit, I was absolutely shocked when I came here on site to realise the full extent of the lack of doctoral services. I was in shock, to be honest, and it took me a while to get my head into, but once I was on the waka, the wānanga waka, on site survival instincts pick in, and you're fighting for those services. A candidate like me has those proficiencies and that skill base to whack in those and to push staff to the maximum. It was warfare, but then I've had warfare elsewhere, so I came with a lot of skills. I came with that mentality. I did put in one of the chapters something in relation to the storm before the calm. Highly strategic on my part to put those. I mean, of course, when you're on the ground, you're testing the system to the max. In order to test it, you've got to find out what's available. You've got to ask questions. You've got to get in the face of everyone. But once that was achieved, it's about maximising service provision entitlement, achieving what you need to achieve, and then stepping back, which is what I did over time. So much in there. The crux of it, and I'm going to just talk for another couple of minutes before I zoom into the next slide, is a whakaaro of staff services first versus students, and it's got to be turned around, I think, in giving this first key point back in terms of feedback. This should be a student-centred service provision waka. What I found is that it was staff first, and I had to push it home to them. It should be about, it's like every sector. The clients are the centre of where money is coming into service provision. Without students, without patients, without consumers, you don't have a system. And I think that whole whakaaro was the first thing that struck me. The second thing that struck me was it's almost like a barrier to providing services. That had to be broken. Staff will melt down when they are struck with a service, user like me, that's demanding services. So, if they're not used to it, they can melt down and freak out and do what they did. So that was a second feedback point to get out there, is the whole effort and impetus on providing even bare minimum services. The third thing that struck me, and I think I'm choking on it a bit, is the actual, now how can I put it? It's the lack of professionalism in managing best practice services. It's unacceptable to go out of the fringes of managing stress and managing crises. And I got staff out when they were breaching their own job descriptions. A couple attempted to put it on to me with my alleging me to have breached my own student. That would never have worked, because I'm a by the book student, but I'm a lot more than that. I am a survivor in with all those years of experience in a sector like this. The tertiary sector is one of my sectors. I know it inside out. I live and breathe it, and to have to be confronted by staff that are breaching job descriptions to the max. My approach was, you sort your fellas wuckers out. I'm not here to do that. Come back to what this whole place is about, providing services to students. You deal with your own problems, and a couple of times, and I think it is a concern to me that I'm going to share. I've kept my mouth zipped about a lot that I've observed, but I will say this. I don't think it's good for staff to be accounting for their own stress. You deal with their meltdowns, and I've had staff say to me, "Oh, that one's stressed," or "this one." My feedback out there is, Coldy, if you're paid, I'm unwaged. I'm a student. Don't compare me on the same waka as you fellas. No way. Don't account your stress for an acceptable sort of. I'm expecting professionalism. I'm expecting you to suck it in. Why did I need to keep sucking in your failures? Cole, you fellas suck it in over there and get the house in order. Don't, but I've kept my mouth zipped, and I'm certainly not into discipline. I'm not here to sort out issues that are there. And that's where I had feedback. Go to the disciplinary process, make complaints. No, I haven't got time for complaints. I've done that in other sectors where it was important for my sons and other things. I don't have time, and I didn't have, it's not my agenda to come in like a storm to sort out the obvious. There's gaps, huge gaps. But if a system is reacting under pressure and accounting for their stress, it's not going to work, is what I'm saying. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. I had to deal with my own shit as a result of others freaking out. And you move through it. You just keep on keeping on. I was never going to give up. And others may have tried to put this student off to go home, etc., etc. It was never going to work. In summary, what I want to provide feedback about is that there are obvious gaps in services for doctoral students. It's a system under crisis in that sense. However, I think that I did bloody well in achieving what I achieved, and I go away from here making sure, as I said in the previous slide, that my lips are sealed, and they are. I'm not going to, and that's what happens for me when I'm working in a system where there's huge gaps. It's not my job to sort it out. My job is to capitalise on it as an unwaged member of the system. if I'm on another waka, that's another kettle of fish. The other thing in giving this feedback is that don't think I'm going to be sharing this with other students for them to capitalise on. I'm not that type. If a student's been good to me, I'll reciprocate on an equal level, so there's gain. I'm going to talk about that in the next slide, about doctoral culture and all of the things that could be beneficial in terms of everything that I'm talking about, where you give feedback, you've got a lot to offer, but you know, for whose gain, and how does that work for complementing a system? I don't think that there was ever going to be any gain for me in that waka. If you're going to invest in students to give back, then you've got to give and promise something. If I'm not going to see opportunities for me after a doctorate, where am I going to invest my skill base? And that's something that's important when you're looking at practicalities and you're looking at facilities and everything. I see a lot of discretionary power. I don't see a democracy in terms of everyone having equal opportunity. Or how can you if the majority are staff and are paid? But the thing is, that may be the case, but that doesn't mean they've got the skill base. I, in my position, actually have a lot to offer, but if I'm impoverished and not awhired, well, where am I going to give back? Well, I gave to students that gave to me. I gave to staff that gave to me. But if we're in a transactional world, and I had one foot looking for employment, looking for opportunities, and I think that we are entitled to that as doctoral candidates, to where to from here. And that practicality side is important. If there's no future, well, you are in and out quickly. I hope this is helpful, and I will catch you at the next slide. I'm going to summarise other points in relation to. I may have gone off a little bit on tangent, but I think it all comes back and feeds in. Kia ora. Kia ora. Kōrero for reflection points 3. It's coming, near the close of the evening, and I've lost some of the recordings. It happens on PowerPoint Mix. Sometimes you don't save it, or something happens. I think it was meant to be, because I shared a lot of my own intellectual property, my own knowledge and experiences of this place. And to be quite frank, when I spoke to several students about the student evaluations and providing some feedback and so on and so forth, and one of them's an employee, it made me realise just how in another world I am as a student. They just had no idea what the hell I was talking about. In other worlds, I'm so advanced with my my proficiencies here that I'm just blown away day by day how in another world I am. I've been around the block, and I have a view and experiences based on what I know should be happening for doctoral candidates, and I think it's appropriate for me to go away from here with my lips sealed. And there's a kōrero called Momo Timer, waste of time. I've tried to help other students, and the one that was the employee that had the kōrero, when I was talking about, I thought that one is up herself with being an employee on a contract, and has tried to awhi me to get knowledge. The thing about, as I move forward, I'm so conscious of the distinction between someone that's waged and unwaged. And the great thing about being a doctoral candidate and what I've experienced here is it doesn't matter in terms of mātauranga. You might be getting a wage, but it doesn't mean that you have the knowledge. If people had clued into that whakaaro a bit better here, it could have worked a lot better. And that's all I'm going to say from here. I think it's meant to be that I keep my lips sealed. There's so much more that I could have said about facilities, and it is beyond words. But the wairua perhaps is guiding me to keep my mouth shut and know my place, which I do. Again, I wish the people here, the students, I want to get through it in one piece. And, that is the way the cookie crumbles. See you at the last slide. Kia ora koe, kia ora kōrua, kia ora koutou, kua mutu e nāianei. I would like to thank you for listening to this oral submission about providing a student evaluation, firstly in terms of the PhD program, and secondly the practicalities, facilities and support services. I haven't gone into personnel particularly. I've skimmed over a lot of things, and I've said that I have to be careful with what I say a lot of the time, because I want to get through. But I did want to convey some type of feedback to the best of my ability on service provision for PhD students from my point of view. This experience for me has been very, very important for career development, for personal development, and it's helped me a lot, and I'm very thankful for that. And I have to suck it in and move forward, which I do, and I will. In looking back, I again reiterate my best wishes, and I hope this feedback has been helpful. I am prepared to provide very focused further feedback if required, but in terms of what I've said, I would hope that any further contact is on the understanding of my position as a student, that is trying to find employment. And I know that's been a major theme here, but at the end of the day, that is the world we are in. That's all from me. Ngā mihi nui. Kia koutou katoa.